Hey guys, it's Vince over at CG Vinyl Studio, and today I'd like to discuss doing custom jobs with your business. Now I know that sounds kind of strange because I've discussed this previously, but custom jobs are going to make up probably about 85, hopefully 90% of your business. And why custom jobs are so important is, of course, it lets you expand your business and hopefully get into different genres. We get a lot of requests for RC graphics. I get requests for automotive graphics, boat graphics, jet ski graphics. And in this particular instance and many others, I get requests for engineering type applications to be performed with our plotter or our printer. I wanted to cover an email that we received. It says, "Hi, my name is Louis Cardenas. I saw your YouTube video on your plotter machine. I was just wondering if you provide plotting services. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions, respectfully." And he goes into detail. And again, this is a Sahar Group Aerospace division. He's a CNC operations suit. And what we've got over here is two components that he wants done. Okay. Now, if we zoom in here, we can see the thickness on the material. We can see here the specs on the material. Of course, he wants these to be done precisely. He stated that in an extenuating email. Again, this is Teflon, so we're looking at a different type of substrate. And then I come over here, and I'm looking at this other one, and again, dimensions are slightly different. And again, we're looking at the same thing. It's a Teflon tape. But what's really interesting is that in a person's eyes who is not familiar with plotting, and they look at a custom job like this and they say, well, you know, I only need a certain amount of these components cut, it shouldn't cost that much. Well, let me explain something to make sure everyone is on the same page, regardless of what industry you're in, as far as asking for custom work and you want a substrate cut that is not what we typically work with. And when I say not what we typically work with, we're not dealing with a vinyl here. So again, when you tell me you want something precisely cut, I'm an engineer as well. So I can tell you right now, precisely cut means you're going to give me a tolerance on a positive negative value as far as what that tolerance is. The second thing I know is I have to handle this raw material. So whether or not my robot can cut it, of course, we know that as a plotter it can cut it, and he realizes that as well. The issue is that now you're asking me to be responsible for your raw material, which means by the time it comes over to me, I have to make sure everything is perfect. And here's what's interesting when you read a schematic like this, if you ever receive one. Number 4 here says, visually inspect part where applicable to be free of scratches, nicks, gauges, chip plating, sharp edges, burns, cracks, loose chips, and foreign matter or foreign material which can be detected with the fingertip or fingernail and visible with the unaided eye. Okay, now these details may be overlooked by some. They're not overlooked by me because, again, I'm an engineer myself. So I realize what this potential client is asking me to do, and I also realize the amount of liability that this is in it for me. And let me explain. If I make a mistake cutting my vinyl, I just reload a piece of vinyl and go to work, like many of you do. If, however, you make a mistake with someone else's substrate, you're held liable for however much of that substrate is destroyed. Now, this is an aerospace company, so we already know that this material is not going to be cheap and most likely going to involve, once again, a level of depth here that far exceeds that of performing, simple cutting for graphics. So why I'm drawing your attention to a project like this or a potential project like this is so you guys are aware on how to price something like this. And again, I keep bringing up the same thing in the fact that I'm an engineer. So when I price something like this, I never price this the same way I'd price regular graphics. This is a higher dollar job, a much higher dollar job. There's a lot more responsibility with this in terms of shipping, responsibility with shipping. And again, we already saw what we're dealing with here as far as what this client expects. Now, of course, he did break down the positive negative dimensional depth. Yes, dimensions are inches. So again, 40 inches long, 3 inches wide. As far as what it actually, okay, our tolerance is angular is positive negative 5, so which is totally doable. Again, expecting a perfect part with something like this is going to involve a lot more depth on your part, especially when you have to do a test cut to make sure everything is set, and then you're relying on the robot once again performing as it should, which usually is no issue. But we have to take into account our responsibility. If something's lost, God forbid, with shipping, you're going to be liable. If something is cut incorrectly, you're going to be liable. If, however, you get material and for some reason it has a fold, a bend, a nick, or follows any of these potential flaws, you will be liable. Make sure you price the job accordingly. And if that price means that you're out of this company's potential realm for the project as far as the budget, it's better to know that right away than to take responsibility and not be compensated for it. Okay? A lot of guys will undercut themselves just to get a big company like this and say, oh man, I'm working with them, I can do that. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But I can tell you right now, most companies of this size, most, are not that attached to a vendor working with a plotter because they know that they can find many of you all over. I actually did not hear back from this actual potential client. I don't know if it's just taking them time to research, but again, I price myself on the higher end, much higher end, because I know what I'm dealing with. Okay, and I'm just making you guys aware as you get jobs like this, because many of you will. You'll get potential jobs like this where, again, it can hopefully lead into more work. Just make sure you're not just getting compensated for the materials, your labor, but also the responsibility you're taking. And I cannot emphasize that enough. These are bigger jobs. The client is much bigger, therefore the responsibility is also much bigger. So just keep that in mind and be aware, because it's amazing how fast things can go south. If you have an issue, they may or may not be that understanding. Whether it's your fault or not your fault, I've seen it go both ways. So again, if you can always learn from someone else's past, it always makes things easier, no different than learning from their mistakes. So again, I hope that this video has been helpful. I hope I've covered some details here you may not have thought of. That's my whole goal. Again, the overall goal here is to be as profitable as possible while supplying the best possible products. And again, I hope I hear back from this potential client, but I hope I hear back from him in a based fairness that we are both going to find where it's feasible for me to accept responsibility, and it's feasible for them to pay for me to accept that responsibility, if that makes sense. So again, if you guys do have questions, we know that videos always add more questions, require quotes or consultations. You'll see our contact information below. For CG Vinyl, you can get with Joanna, you can get with me. She'll probably forward messages to me. In this case, this is exactly what she did. And then we can cover exactly what you're looking at. Again, we do all kinds of custom work. We do actually also supply custom OEM substrates based on your recommendation. It's something I've kind of forgotten to actually express in previous videos. But if you have projects, hopefully we'll have answers for you. Get in touch with us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Take care.